out so that there's nothing left in the mold whatsoever. All right. Now, we just shake that out so as to be able to get the juices all running out from there. Take the water out of this saucepan. Everything will become clear. And then take this mixture here and drop it down into that pan because we're going to add a sauce. We're going to make a sauce for that. Now, heat this up so that it's nearly boiling, and I'll come back to that in a second. Now, everything will become clear. With this, you simply take, let me just turn that down. You then take this mix and you simply stir it all up together. And then you take a pan which is called a bunt pan. That's the actual name of the thing, or a Kugelhof pan. And you take the vegetables that you've got here and you simply put all of that into the dish. You see the meat is there as well, and you'll notice that there's a hole in the middle. Now this is to make a particular kind of cake, obviously, but it works brilliantly for this thing. And this is why I said it was so unusual, because I've never actually seen anything done quite this way before, and it's my own little invention. I thought, look at that. At least you didn't go onto the bench. And the smell is gorgeous. Now, you take a large pot like this one with about 2 or 3 inches of water in the bottom, and you simply drop that down into the water. Now what happens is the water, you put it on a moderate heat, and the water comes up and it condenses on the top of the lid here and drops down over the meat. And it looks just like it did when I lifted the lid of the other one. You see this is boiling now. You can take that to the side and take about 4 tablespoons full of water. I think I used the wrong water for the other thing, but it doesn't matter. I put 4 tablespoons full of water in there, and that's why it was a bit soupy. And now this is going to be very thick. And so then you take this mix, which is strained off the dish, and you just pour that in, and this will then thicken. This is cornstarch, so it needs about 30 seconds of blooping to be able to get it going. And it will thicken it so that you can make this kind of alternative to coconut cream. That's the big thing that we have to find here as a creative alternative to coconut cream. It's a wonderful, I don't know whether you like coconut cream, but I love it. It's just so mouthfeel is fantastic. Well, we just take this, which is ordinary yogurt, non-fat yogurt, and we strain it in one of these little plastic things, and out comes the whey at the bottom, and it's all done nicely. Now, here we then take a little whisk and start to whisk the sauce, this sauce that we had from here, which is the condensed, magnificent experience, you know, from the actual condensation. It cooks for about 3 hours, 3 to 6 hours. And I say 3 to 6 hours, it honestly can hardly go wrong, but 3 hours is just fine. And you've got this terrific sauce, which you then pour over the top. Now see how wonderful that looks as you stir that around like so. Turn that off. Now this is simply and solely, you just get a hold of this and pop this in to a nice serving dish of this nature, okay? Just lift it up and whack it in. And I've got a cucumber riata salad that goes with that. And a few peanuts are just shaken over the top, dry roasted peanuts over the top there. A little dusting of parsley, and I'll show you the riata salad just over there, in a magical way. Now, I told you we'd get some magic, and here it is already ahead of us. This is the riata salad, which is cucumber and a little yogurt and cumin, and this is the chapati. It looks like a puppet, it looks like a tortilla, but of course it's not a chapati. And I've got some in my book which have got no fat in them. These have got a little bit of fat in them. Okay, well there we are. We did the dish, and let's have a look at the numbers. The classic has got coconut cream sauce in it. And coconut cream, because of that, is 1237 and 80 grams of fat. Now, because we didn't do that, look how it drops down to 13 grams of fat, 46 carbohydrate, 26% calories from fat instead of 59. Comes down to 61 in cholesterol and 694 because of the fish sauce on the sodium. But really, pretty good stuff when you think of it. And I'll tell you, if you want a real experience in creativity, with those dry roasted peanuts at the end, and with that marvelous bite that it has to it, and that lilting lime that goes through the whole thing, and the aroma that comes up, and you can feel the coconut without actually having to have it slathered through you. It really is a smashing dish. Well, of course, you know, when it comes down to this business of creativity, and that's what I felt when I started this. This is so creative. It has layers upon layers. It's another country's cuisine. It's another people's food. But it's adapted in that unusual way with the drip stew idea to be able to suit us. I don't know whether you're like me, but I like to get things on the go and be able to put it on one side and not get fussed about the fact that it's going to burn or something. With that drip stew done in that way, it can't. It literally cannot burn. It comes up through the hole in the middle, condenses and drips down. That's why I call it a drip stew. Okay, flavors are gorgeous. Do you remember a little while ago, I hope you got the program, when we looked at the new pyramid, and I kept the same piece of paper that I did before. This is the food pyramid, and the idea is that this is foods that you can eat a lot of, grains, etc., foods that you can eat less of as it gradually goes to the top, and on the top is fat. That's a very good idea. Before we used to have the 4 food groups, you know, the basic 4 food groups, but I'd like to come up with something as another 4 food groups from our point of view. I'd like to come up, because I think the way that I feel about food, and I think you do too, is I want some satisfaction. I want to feel I've eaten this kind of food, 12 ounces of food there. I want variety, and we chose that for fruit and vegetables. I want to be comforted. I want to, like if I was from Thailand, I would love to feel this because I would feel that it was of my home and my country. That's nostalgia. And I want creativity. Now, I want to create new things. Where do you get creativity from? Well, I think you get it from herbs and spices and some of these little seasonings and everything else that we put into this. And that's why in the book that goes with this series, I've listed there almost 100 different creative herbs and spices and describe them fully to you, which go in here. But nobody has ever done this. It's not in the pyramid. There's nothing about herbs and spices. There's nothing in the 4 food groups. But there is in this creative idea of these 4 things that we want out of food. So for me, the creativity comes from herbs and spices. And when you get to know more about them and can start putting them together, rather like an artist does, who has a palette, an artist's palette, and chooses to mix different colors together, like somebody on a soundboard who puts more trebles and basses to put sound together, so you and I, as cooks who are involved with our food, can take our creativity and move in with herbs and spices in a very special way. I love to set those bright notes and those lilting flavors through food. It's just wonderful. Join me, won't you? Okay. Oh, this is, I mean, you know, I have to say that this stuff is the most creative food I've cooked in a long, long time. Won't you try it? We're some good friends, okay? Have fun. God bless you. See you next time. Welcome to Graham Kerr's Kitchen. It's really 2 programs in 1. This is a series that appeals to your creative side. Food that is sumptuous stuff. How could that be? This is a program about people who want to eat healthy and reduce calories. Actually, it's about food with an aromatic quality that fills the nose. Oh, sure. But it's also about keeping my arteries clean by reducing fat. But it doesn't mean a thing if the food isn't rich and colorful. Maximize the flavor. Okay, but I must have healthy food that I can cook in minutes. I must minimize the risk. So welcome to Graham Kerr's Kitchen, where we get our heads together just for you. Welcome back. I'm so pleased that you joined me today. I've got a very unusual thing. It's called TVP, textured vegetable protein. But if you've ever tried it and didn't like it, stop right there. Don't turn off, because this is going to be created, and my friends around here have tested this and think it's terrific. Okay, come through, because this has got a whole lot more than just meets the eye. This is a 2-step thing, which I call the double benefit. This is picadillo, which is one of the great dishes of Mexico. And what we're going to do is create a beautiful golden rice there. It doesn't look golden, but well, that's kind of yellowy there. And that will be studded with raisins, and it has turmeric in it, and it's brown rice, and it's gorgeous, and show you how to do that. And then we're going to put together some sauteed bananas with a touch of spice in them, which is really intriguing as a side dish. Then in the middle of there's the picadillo itself. And I don't know how to color this in, but it's red, and it's violent. It's got beautiful, well, it's not violent exactly. I mean, there's enough violence on television, isn't it? But it's got greens thrown out through it as well. It smells gorgeous. It's got a terrific updraft of wonderful aroma to it. And it's a great way of taking this incredible stuff called textured vegetable protein, which I'll explain to you all about, and making it a part of our daily life, or at least weekly. Come on, I'll show you how it's done. It is true, you know, that some of us don't have very good kitchen facilities, some of us, because some of us are homeless. And this is one of the ways that we can actually use this concept and idea, TVB, to help some other people. Now, the sort of things that a person who is homeless and who is outdoors cooks on is this is a cooking solid fuel like this one. And a tin can be pierced so that it allows for, you know, just slip it over the top, and it allows a windbreak and frame like this, and also a certain amount of space upon which to set the cooking equipment. Now this is it. This is kind of cute cooking equipment. I think it's brilliant. You extend the handle, and it's got a little nut there, and you just tighten it up. You take the top off, and here's the casserole dish, and there's the cup. And you've probably gone camping sometime and you've seen this, and here's a little sort of thing here. And so what we're going to do is to put that on top, use this as well, so as to give it a bit more strength. And I wanted to test it like this because I wanted to try and put together something that would be very valuable to people who were, you know, really suffering out there and needed to have a food bank provide TVP and something else other than its raw form, because it's not very nice to eat on its raw form. So we got makers of this product, V8 juice, and they gave a good price to the food bank, and so they give this out as a can. And I just heated that up because it takes about 10 minutes to heat this stuff in this actual equipment here. And so I just wanted to heat it up so as to show you the actual technique, what goes on. I took 3/4 of a cup of TVP, and I'll explain to you where you can get it in just a moment. And then got these dry ingredients, because they had to produce a kit that you could give them, and then they would be able to make it up themselves when they wanted it. So we had 5 slices of banana, although this has been not so popular with some, and others like it, but it's actually been taken out now. But I've left it in because it was in the original. 2 teaspoonfuls for 1 serving of flaked onions, and a 1/2 teaspoonful of dried chipped garlic, and a 1/4 teaspoonful of cumin seed, powdered, and a 1/4 teaspoonful of parsley. And so all of that was just dropped in and just mixed up, just willy-nilly, like that. And when this whole mix comes to the boil, it is then just taken up and poured right on top. Just pour it on. You can actually take the dried stuff and pour it into the wet stuff. Whatever you do, it goes through a process called resuscitation. And so I just simply stir it up like that, and each of those little granules is now plumping and absorbing all of those flavors, and a little red pepper can be put on the side so as to turn this into really a hot chili. Those people that like that, and imagine a real cold night and you've got a bedroll or something or sleeping under newspapers. I know these things are not the happiest thing to talk about. Let's talk about it. They're real. And there's been an awful lot of this textured vegetable protein given to food banks, and they haven't really known how to be able to serve it to people. And so the idea is to try and create something. Tell you what, let's go over, whilst that's resuscitating now, let's go over to a typical food bank. This one's called the Georgetown Food Bank, and actually see how all of this is put together and explain what TVP is. Over to you. Thanks, Graham. Well, now, I'm here with all of these sacks. All of these sacks contain textured vegetable protein, which we've had a look at already. But here's the reason why there's so much of it and why this is being donated as it is in such large quantities. We use a lot of soy oil, and so we take the soybeans, press the oil out of it, and that's how we get that. But what we have as a residue after the soybean has been actually pressed is this textured vegetable protein, and it is good plant protein. It's very valuable. It's a good food source. It just needs to taste better. Now, you can buy this as Hamburger Helper in the average sort of store. That's a brand name for it. It's used in a number of other products. But the way that you can get it in the pure flakes like this is a food co-op or in a health food store. They've got it. It should be very inexpensive, by the way. Okay, now, this is being put together in special little sacks for the clients when they come in and they need this food by the Rotary people, and they're really neat. Oh, they're such neat people, and they're big-hearted folks. The result of this is what happens, and this is a volunteer group from Rotary who are just putting these things together, but this is what it turns out to be. You've got a can of juice here, and you've got the actual mix itself, but the mix itself is a combination of things. Hi, Nicholas. Nicholas has been very responsibly putting in just that amount of cumin, that powdered cumin, which is really what relieves the taste of the soy taste in the soy chips themselves. You know, which have got that kind of beanie taste. Did you find that had a beanie taste?
Well, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I understand you didn't like the banana. I slipped up there, didn't I? Anyway, thank you, Nicholas. I've got to get about this and do something out over here, but we'll have a chat about it a little bit later. Thanks so much for packing it all together. Okay, so this goes in a bag. And so where it was that all the sacks of this stuff were upstairs and nobody had a clue what to do with it. It's not that I had such a great idea. Let's face it, cumin goes nicely with beans. But here's the point for you. Why don't you springboard on this kind of a concept? Go and find out what, people like this with great organizations, and they really have a heart for people. Find out what they've got a lot of. And then you put your ideas with theirs, and you could come up with a little packet of something which people would like just as well. Okay, just a thought. Let's get back to the cook. I'll show you another dish that you can do with TVP. All right. That really is a simple dish, and it's not such a difficult idea. Just the thought of trying a little TVP yourself, developing a recipe, and then going along to a food bank and saying, hey, look, not so much money, don't have much time, but I got this idea. It would be helpful. All right, put the lid on the top of that, take the spoon out of it, and just let it resuscitate with the lid on. That's always a useful thing. Very quick idea. All right, now for the other thing. The first thing we're going to do is have a look at some bananas. Now, these bananas are clearly peeled. They don't come this way. Wouldn't it be wonderful if, in our convenient lifestyle that we have nowadays, somebody came up with the idea, previously peeled bananas saves you the time for be able to lavish on your family. I mean, that always gets me. I mean, you know, you save 15 seconds on something and it's supposed to do wonderful things for your family. Here we go. 1 teaspoonful of oil in the bottom of the pan on quite a low heat. Couple of bananas, just slide up, or bananas if that wasn't clear, and just push down in the pan, moved about so that they separate and can all get a chance at the oil. And going to season those in a little while, just a little later, but I'll explain how that's done. Now, onion and garlic. You might have seen this before, but let me just show it to you once again. If you take an ordinary onion like this and just cut little slices down that way, then turn it round. What was that? Oh, piece of banana. Refreshing. All right, I know what you're going to say. Rinse your hands then, Graham. So this is the politically correct cooking program. And then run the knife blade down across that. Because this onion is so brilliantly made, it makes it possible to be able to have tiny little cubes, you see? And that's what I wanted to get, just nice, fresh little cubes. There we are. And then, and this is why I like this piece of equipment. I'm so glad that 8 different manufacturers have copied what I created. There's always something very nice about that. Put in 1, that's what I was picking up. Here's 1 teaspoonful of oil in the bottom again. This has got sort of standard now between us, isn't it? You know, 1 teaspoon. And drop it down. And amazing when you think that I used to start out and I used to think that a quarter of a cup was absolutely essential. Such are the foibles of youth. And then pop in the rest of the onion. And now for the rest of the onion. Here are 2 cloves of garlic and just a quick bang on the side, little chop up, which is the second thing that does. And lift those up and pop those down. Never, never garlic first, always on top of the onions. That saves them from scorching. And not too high a temperature. This conducts heat so well that you can have to watch it. There, now it's releasing the natural oils in there and it looks just terrific. Let's have a look at this. We're going to whiz some spices up again, and by now I hope you're going to get one of these. As I told you, it's about $25, but there we are. And you'll use it and use it and use it with this kind of food. There we are, about 1.5 inches of cinnamon over the top, and here 6 cloves. And pop those on separate and start whizzing them up. It's really just a coffee mill, electric coffee mill. And you'll never see it advertised as a spice mill or anything else like that. That isn't burning. Good to have a reasonable stretch. And when the tinkles stop, you'll know that you've just about done it. Now here are the powdered spices, powdered cinnamon and powdered cloves, and they smell wonderful, but frankly, the moment you powder something and then package it, it starts to lose something of its quality. So that's why I like to do this at the very last moment. When you put the 2 together, I don't really like cloves, but if you like cinnamon, and cinnamon, by the way, according to statistics, is the most popular spice in the world. And so I've just simply grated that up finely, and I always put it through a sieve just in case there are any massive pieces left behind. Whiz it up some more. But this is the actual mix now. Oops. That was almost the actual mix. Let me just I need every little speck of that. And this is another useful reason to have this piece of equipment. And with that amount of spice, which is half of it, pop the spice on top of the bananas, and they can do with just a little bit more heat, and they'll spice up as they go. All right, the rest of it, which is in here, which is about 1/4 teaspoonful odd, I want to put into the TVP. So I've got a cup full here in this part of the recipe, so we'll just pop that into the top there and stir it in. And with that also, 1/2 teaspoonful of cumin. This is the same stuff we saw before and has such an affinity for soybean and for beans generally that it's really essential. Whatever you're going to try and do yourself, try and put cumin with it as well. Okay, Now let's moisten it a bit. We've got here just under a cup of water, about 7/8 of a cup. I know that sounds a little pedantic, but if you add 7/8 of a cup and then you put 2 tablespoons full of balsamic vinegar in there, you'll find it comes up to 1 cup. That's the reason. 1 cup of water to moisten 1 cup of the TVP. So pop that in there too. All right, and that just resuscitates. It's so dry. You go and it goes like this. Hey! You know, and the balsamic does wonderful things for it. We'll put that and let that go. Now, over here, I'm just going to put in 1 green pepper, which is very finely chopped, and just exactly the same kind of chopping as the onion had. So pop that in now, and the onion is now loosened up. It's wonderful. It's sort of translucent in color. But I don't want the same sort of thing to happen to the green pepper. I want the green pepper to remain nice and crisp and very green. Same time, got a tablespoonful of capers. You know, the little, very sharp pickled seed from the Mediterranean, and it's very soft. And then 1/4 cup of dried raisins. Pop those in as well. So you've got a sweetness to it. You then take a 16-ounce can of tomato puree and pop that in. Now you've got great looking color. You've got the sweetness and you've got the sourness of the caper. And you can see the color that's been developed in here. Looking great. Then 1 tin of black beans, of the turtle beans. And they pop in on the top. Now that looks terrific. All you need to do to add to that mix then is the resuscitated TVP, which, by the way, has the same amount of essential protein in it, get this, as beef and chicken. It's got 18%. And so, I mean, that is just a phenomenal thing. That's the resuscitated one. Okay, now see how that all turns together? Bring the heat up underneath that, and you can go for it. Now let's have a look at the rice. Okay, long grain rice, 1½ cupfuls, and that's what's in here. And we put into there a 1/4 teaspoonful of turmeric. This is a ground root which is very, very, very bright in yellow color. And then you simply put into there 3 cups, always twice the amount of water to the rice. Put it on a boil, 25 minutes, and then strain it through one of these hand sieves like this, put water in the bottom, put it on the top, put a lid on the top of that, and keep that ready, and it takes about 15 minutes, and you're done. Okay, look at everything, seems to be right. So, we've got all of that done nicely, and here we've just got these bananas, which are turned backwards and forwards so that the spicing goes all over the outside of them and gets really well mingled in with the whole lot. Perfect. Now, and the smell of the banana comes whizzing off. Now, according to the asbestos tongues of your best friends, you then sprinkle on some pepper flakes onto this one. Well, this is for camera too. And just simply stir all of that in, let that heat drizzle through it, and you're ready to build your masterpiece. All right, plate over here, spoon, and first of all, the picadillo goes in the center. You can do this decoratively. Look at the portion size. That's a portion size. You could do this as a meal just, you know, once a week, perhaps, you could do a meal like this one. See the raisins pop down there in the top of that brown rice, which has been treated in that way. Stack it on. I mean, this is good food. This is going to stick to your ribs. And then just a little of those spiced bananas, just popped on the side. Not too many of those. They're a little side dish. Then the little Georgetown flaky, I just want to be able to put a little of that on the side just for me. That's not for presentation. I mean, that's because I want to be able to taste everything that we do. Take a little spot of parsley over the top, and we're ready. Let's go eat. it has a really terrific taste. And the updraft of the aroma, as I said earlier on, is really terrific concept. Now, let's see, actually, we're going to compare this to the picadillo, which is the standard Mexican dish of the day. And this is, of course, with a lot of beef in it and with olives in it and tomatoes. It's really delicious, you know, works very well. But here's the difference that you actually get. If you compare just the picadillo and the picadillo, we get 350 in calories. In fat, only 3 grams of fat versus the 45. Carbohydrates are 57. And the percentage of calories from fat is only 7%. I mean, truly great. Cholesterol is 0 because there's nothing there from animal fats. Sodium is at 314. Now, obviously, by the time you've added the banana and also the rice, that shoots it up in terms of calories, and that goes to 790 calories. But the fat only goes up 3, which only is to 6. So that means that the fat percentage stays about the same. So I think it is just a tremendous dish, and it really sticks to the ribs, and it's wonderful if the weather's gone a bit rough on you, and but it's colorful too, and sorry, camera 2. Well, he says, oh, put some more in for me. No, forgotten about me. Oh, that's good. Oh, do try that. It's lovely and colorful, and there's plenty of it for the family. There's a double benefit in this, and that was the word that I wanted to get in right at the very beginning. A double benefit here is an intriguing thing, because it's really saying you can make some changes in the way that you eat with your family, which will benefit you and your health at the same time as maybe being able to reach out and help someone else who really needs it. Have a look at these numbers here. Let's say, for example, that you eat between 6 and 8 ounces of meat in a day. Would that be fair enough? I know that may be over the top, but you think about the number of times that you eat meat in some sort of way during the day and add that up and see whether I'm right or not. In fact, you could weigh it and see. Now, let's say that you bring that down to 2 ounces. Now, this is what we've been doing. On average, the dishes that we're doing at the present moment come to about 2 ounces per person per day. And if that is done, and by the word average, I mean, you take this. Now, there was no meat in this dish at all, and yet it fulfills a meaty kind of flavor. So we're using the texture of the vegetable protein instead of meat, and getting the same sort of satisfaction out of it. Maybe even the same appearance out of it almost. Okay, so we're saying that once a week, say, you may be able to have a completely vegetable meal, and that's what makes it 2 ounces average. All right. Now, let's say that, that you are going to save. You take 2 from 6, you get 4, and that's at the smallest number. You save 4 ounces a day, and you've got 4 people in your family. This is what happened with us when we had 4 people in the home. And we had 1 pound saved in meat a day. That's 365 pounds a year, okay? Now, the price of meat nowadays is about $3 a pound if you take it overall. And so it's over $1,000 a year. Rather than just say that to you, I really wanted to show it to you. Now, here's the point. You could split that, and you could say, okay, for my benefit, for my family, I'm going to put $500 into vegetables. I'm going to buy good vegetables, organically grown vegetables. I'm going to live it up, and that's what's going to be on my plate rather than meat. So you're going to have to spend more money on buying vegetables. So take half the savings and put it there. What about the other half? This is the double benefit. You have benefited by the virtue of the fact you've got less fat, more micronutrients, more color, more arrangement, more excitement in your food, and you've got $500 that you could share with someone who's not as well off as you are. Now, I don't know. Sometimes, perhaps, you've seen the news sometime, and you've really got a feeling inside here, I want to help that person. And maybe it's happened several times and you've never got around to it. This could give you a way of doing it. Wouldn't that be fun? Hey, look, this is such a good idea for just 1 day a week. Why not just stir up this and make it a feature? do it yourself for your family. God bless. See you next week. Welcome to Graham Kerr's Kitchen. It's really 2 programs in 1. This is a series that appeals to your creative side. Food that is sumptuous stuff. How could that be? This is a program about people who want to eat healthy and reduce calories. Actually, it's about food with an aromatic quality that fills the nose. Oh, sure. But it's also about keeping my arteries clean by reducing fat. But it doesn't mean a thing if the food isn't rich and colorful. Maximize the flavor. Okay, but I must have healthy food that I can cook in minutes. I must minimize the risk. So welcome to Graham Kerr's Kitchen, where we get our heads together just for you. Hello, welcome back. I tell you what, this time, when I was a boy, that's an incredibly long time ago, I know, but I just want to tell you I've got a fresh memory. My mother, used to make me fish cakes, rissoles, croquette, with a little salmon and potatoes, and all bound together with a rich, creamy sauce, and then fried in breadcrumbs with tomato sauce on the top, and peas and things like that. Ever did that for you? Well, I'm not going to do that, but that's the sort of inspiration I've got for this one, because I really wanted to do a kind of fish cakey thing, but then it sort of, my mood ran away with me, and I've got something I think quite interesting. We're going to steam a fish cake rather than fry it. Ooh, I hear you say, no, that's okay. And we're going to put over the top of that fish cake a little paprika to be able to give it the color which otherwise I'd miss with the breadcrumbs. And then around the outside, all strange things, a sweet corn and cilantro sauce. Does that sound nice? Sort of the sweetness with just little flecks of cilantro in it. Then around that, a piece of steamed curly kale, just to sort of set it off, some green peas over here, and some mushrooms. I don't know how to do mushrooms, but there we are. Some mushrooms cooked with some green peas just around the outside. Do you know, it looks very colorful, it tastes wonderful, and it doesn't have that load of fat in it that I didn't care about when I was a boy. You might not care about it now, but I care about it. So let's have a go, and I'll show you how it's done. Ha! There you are. All right. First things first, the salmon. Now, I'm going to use salmon for this because it's got a lovely color and it reminds me of the tin salmon's idea. This is a fillet of salmon, and it's a nice sockeye, and you can see by the little markings on here, it's got lots of omega-3 fatty acid in it. And here is another piece here, which is a center cut. This is, you know, a steak is what it's called, or a cutlet in some places. But I prefer this piece because it cooks quicker and because it has less bones in it. And of course, you can always fiddle around and get the bones out. But this shows you, I've got markings on this picker-upper, and it's nearly 2 inches thick at the high point there. And that's an important thing to measure because you need about 6 inches, 6 minutes per inch when you're steaming. All right. Actually, when you're steaming, I didn't mean when you're steaming, but when you're actually steaming salmon. All right, we'll take a little freshly ground salt, not too much. As you will notice, there's quite a lot of salt goes in this because of the potato content. Pepper on the top, little black pepper, and drop that down. Now, see how wide that plate is? There is enough of a gap around here for the steam to billow up underneath. And we need that, but we also need it to reduce its juices, which come out of it during steaming, to be here on this plate. So that's the way it goes, and then the lid goes on the top. And that's 10 inches across, by the way, if you need to know how wide that is. All right? Good. Well, now we're going to set that timer up there for about 10, 11 minutes. That's roughly how long it will take. Good. All right, next item, potatoes. The potatoes in this one, not waxy ones, okay? Not the new waxy ones like that, but one like this. This is a russet potato, and they boil marvelously. They come up and they look wonderful. I boil this for 15 minutes. Chop them up into smaller pieces, like about this size here. Let's try and get a bit up for you. About that size. And this is what you do. Boil it for 15 minutes, drain the water off, then put a towel over the top of them, just like this one here, and put it on a very low heat, and it'll steam up, and the steam will come up into the towel there, and they will have like a flour on the outside. They're so dry, and you can't have moist, soggy potatoes in this dish. So then just drop those out, or you can, oh, look, isn't that lovely? They've just been kissed by that heat underneath. They've got little brown, which isn't where it's supposed to be, but don't worry. Crush them quickly and don't let anybody see the brown. And it doesn't make any difference to this whatsoever. Now, just simply crush it down. This is what I call the collapsible pogo stick crusher. It's a simple idea. It's just a couple of things that squeeze together like so, and they're offset slightly. Great idea. And pop it down. Now, in addition to that, you put in 1 teaspoonful of freshly ground pepper. I didn't want to carry on all day long doing it. And a 1/4 teaspoonful of salt. See, one thing about potatoes are that they really soak up salt. So I need to put enough in it to be able to do that. You'll see the numbers at the end and how that reflect it. Okay, so those are the potatoes. They're crushed and seasoned there. Now, there's a cucumber that goes in this, and it's quite a fun idea. If you take a teaspoon and you just simply run the teaspoon down the seed pod center of the cucumber like so, you can get it out no problem. Just shoot that to one side. I've never found a use for that, by the way. That seems to be just tossed right out. And these are chopped through so that you've got tiny, well, not tiny, but quite discernible pieces like that. A whole cucumber, so you get an English-style cucumber. And just keep on going. It's fun. If you want to practice with a knife sometimes, that's an awfully impressive thing. That and a banana, those are great. Now, take those and pop those into a glass bowl. And these get the most extraordinary seasoning, really. These are the seasonings. Now, this salt, no problem, you know, 1/4 teaspoonful of salt, teaspoonful of dill, no problem with cucumbers. But cumin, you know, 1/2 teaspoonful of cumin in that, that's ridiculous. I mean, I had never heard of that. But boy, I'll tell you, when you stir that up and you smell that ground cumin, when you do that and you make sure that it's completely integrated over the whole thing, make sure that cumin seed goes all over, because there's one piece there which is drenched in it. All right, and you've got that ready, and those are steamed, and they're just terrific. Now, that cumin seed is an amazing thing. Over here, I've got an 11-ounce tin of corn, and this is straight corn, no salt added, and just a certain amount of the liquid still left in the can, not too much, and 12 pieces of cilantro. Now, this is cilantro, you know, that marvelous, almost parsley-like, but it has this incredible flavor. It's a terrific flavor. But if you put too much in it, it tastes like soap. It's quite odd. So just 12 pieces. Now we'll run it and just pulse it round. Well, whiz it round quite hard. What I'm doing is beating the little kernels out, and it sounds like Desert Storm, doesn't it? And just turn that off when it's been done, and thank you. And to this, add 4 tablespoonfuls of strained yogurt. Now, that's our strained yogurt. You see how thick it is? That's set up on a little strainer and for about 8 hours. and the whey comes out of it, and that has this beautiful, soft, marvelous mix. Now then you start running it again slowly. You mustn't beat strained yogurt too much because it really needs to have delicacy with it when it's added, because it doesn't have fat, and so you want to make a sauce with that, and this is a cool sauce with this, and it's ready. I mean, that is all you do in order to make the sauce. Now I'm going to put some smoked salmon with the salmon in it, and I think, oh yes, I know it's a little expensive, but look, it gives a wonderful flavor and color and flex and taste and texture to the thing. So this is a hot smoked salmon. Again, it's a sockeye. The skin is stripped off and any little pieces of bone are taken away, and we've got that already there, okay? Now, we've got the salmon. Just let me see how much I've got. Oh, not too bad, nearly there. And here is the potato, the plunger, and get some of this smoked salmon now, and there's 1/4 pound of smoked salmon. Pop that into the top, and that's salty, of course, but so are capers. The small seed from a Mediterranean bush in North Africa, as well as in the southern part of France as well. It's a small trailing bush, and they pickle the unformed buds. They're really interesting. It's really not so much the seed, but the unformed buds. And they have a lovely flavor. Now, what I'm doing is obviously just pogoing this together. And in a second, when this salmon is ready, which is almost ready there now, so let me show you what this looks like. Get a cloth, lift up the steamer, right, like that, and place that down over a really well done bowl. You know, when I say a well done bowl, a nice solid bowl. Take the lid off, and you see what happens. The tray, being not fixed, is able to be lifted up, and we'll let that cool down so that I can handle it. In the meantime, isn't this wonderful, Simon? In the meantime, let's pop over to the supermarket, okay? And we'll actually find out what we need to know about how to shop for fish. Oh, there's the supermarket over there. Let's find out about fish. All right, thanks, Graham. Oh, when you're shopping and you come into this part of the market, do you sort of kind of walk past this as if you don't really know? Maybe you've had a couple of pieces of fish from time to time, but you know, you haven't really known how to order this and you don't know how to make the right buy. Well, just a couple of little pointers here. There are inexpensive fish and expensive fish, obviously. And for fish cakes like we're doing today, you could use scallops if you wanted to, but frankly, you know, at $9 a pound, I really wouldn't do that. You could use some prawns in that. That's quite good price, you know. Here, how about this? Dover sole at $4.99, or how about the fresh rockfish at $2.69? And another fish that you get about the same price as that would be perch, which can be quite low down on the ground. But check that it is fresh, because you can't get away with anything which is low priced because it's not fresh. Kelly, if I wanted to check the freshness here now, and I'm sure people who don't shop a lot for fish would be nervous about this, can I say to you, can I sniff the fish?
Yes, people do it all the time.
They do?
Yes.
Over there. And it's not just here that they do that. Okay.
No.
Well, if they do that, and then how do you do that? How does it look like to them?
Well, we get a piece of paper and we put the fish on it and reach across the counter, and they can get their nose as close as they want to.
Good. And is it true to say if you sniff fish and it smells of the sea, it's okay? If it smells like fish?
Yes. You can tell by your smell.
Okay. So you'd be able to help them out if they don't know?
Definitely.
And you don't mind?
Never.
Bless you. I know you wouldn't mind, but anyway. Kelly's great. Look, when I put this particular dish together, I started out and thought, well, hey, we got a lot of crab around, so you can get your own crab, and this is Dungeness crab on the west coast, blue crabs on the east. But this little fella here, about 2 pounds, by the time you got the meat out of it, which is about 5-6 ounces of meat, it actually costs about the same amount of money. So you might just as well save yourself the trouble, unless you can catch your own, in which case then cook it and peel it and do all of that. Now, what we decided to do was to be able to make it with salmon, and I looked at the cost of salmon. This little fella here is about $4 a can, and it should always be red. Look for red sockeye. so you've got the good color for this particular kind of dish. But look, come over here for a second. This is Alaskan king salmon here at $8.99 a pound, and that's for half a pound. So you get some idea that, hey, it may be perfectly all right to go with the fresh. All right, one quick thing, if you're putting a little bit of smoked salmon into it, which I like to do, this kind of smoked salmon, older smoke, and you get it in a shrink pack, that's about $9 a pound. This fella here is $24 a pound, that's lox. Or you could get lox trim. You might like to ask your seafood merchant about this. You see this is the trim which makes this so beautiful? Well, this is only $7 a pound, $6.99 a pound. That's pretty good pickings. All right, back to you, Graham. Thank you. That's good information. Everything will have gone up at least $1 by the time you hear that. Okay, now I've crushed all that up together, and by the way, you might find little bones in it, and there are a few bones even in the fillet. And so they'll become apparent. You'll crush everything up except the bones. Just watch it as you're doing it. Okay, put that down one end so I can just deal with this. Now, the next thing is we're going to steam the cakes. Now, I'm going to mold these up for you in a moment, but you just take the cakes like that, and you place them, you just reverse the whole system, one that we did before. Just lift it up like that, place those down on the steamer, wind the steamer up high, put this one on top because we want to steam more than just the one thing. Get 4 nice large of well-washed curly kale, make sure there isn't any grit in the edge, put that on the top, and then put that incredibly seasoned cucumber on the top of that. All right? Lid on, and about 4 minutes. Great. Now let me show you how you'd mold one of these things. So I'll tell you what I'll do first of all, because I think it would be useful, because otherwise they'll be raw. We'll take mushrooms. Now the mushrooms are, you know the way I love to do mushrooms. There's one mushroom there, which is just simply cut in those pieces. We're going to have more than one mushroom. And then 8 ounces of those are put into the bottom of a pan. Now the pan's on about medium-high, so you can just push the mushrooms out on there and get the juice of 1 lemon, which is coming out there, at least it will eventually. This is a marvelous thing. If you've got one of these, you know that most times they work perfectly, and then that one time, especially when you're on camera, it doesn't. Let's see whether it works this time. So you put it on there, squeeze it. I want the juice of 1 lemon completely. All right. Now, here it goes. Ah, look, isn't that wonderful? Thank you. Oh, look, it's going on forever. All right, there. So that's done, and they're actually sauteed in lemon juice without anything else except just a little bit of black pepper over the top. Now, whilst those are cooking down, we'll just remind me a moment, put peas on there. Okay, thank you. All right, so now the peas are there. Now I'm going to simply mold one of these things, just to show you how it works. You get this back, and all you do is you simply get a good dollop of it. Now, no cream sauce, no butter, no eggs, just that dry potato, which is mixed now with those seasonings nicely. Got that, get the plate and tap it like this. See, doesn't that look neat? And then you just squeeze that down like so, and you do 4 of those. I mean, that's as quick as it can be, just around the plate like that, put them on, and off you go. Now, I've allowed 2 of those per head, so that's quite a lot. I just wanted to see what one actually looks like. Let's build it and show you what happens. Before you've finished with these mushrooms here, just put a cup and a half of peas on the top, fresh green peas, stir those in so that the mushroom and the peas are together. Now that's a very nice, simple dish. Quick. All right, let's have a look. Now, you just simply take your steamer apart in the way that you would normally do. You remember how we did this before? Just simply take this up and drop that down over the top of a bowl. And I can't see a thing, my glasses are fogged up. Ah, you've come back again. And what we'll do, oh, here they are, is we'll take a little kale, first of all, put that on the dish, and then take these fish cakes and drop the 2 fish cakes almost on the top first. But first of all, before we do that, sometimes I can't get it undone. It must be my age or what I eat. So you get a couple of spoonfuls of that wonderful sauce underneath, okay? And then slip the 2, isn't it wonderful you've got a long spatula like that? Just slip the 2 on the top. Put a little paprika on the top of that, which gives them that color which otherwise they may not have, and it gives that marvelous color to it. And then you just simply take your peas and the mushrooms there. Oh, it's a great dish. And some of those incredible cucumbers with the cumin. It's just terrific. All right, let's see how it tastes. Come on. Turn the gas off first. Oh, gas? No, it's electricity. Sorry, come on. It is absolutely amazing, actually, when you've got a brown fried surface, which you actually love. You know, see this brown surface in here? And with the sauce over the top of it. Now, that is a fish cake. But this one, with the red on the top, with the paprika, it's just amazing. All right, so that's what we were looking for. Let's have a look at the numbers. Instead of 565, we've got 396. That's quite a drop, you know. And from 32 grams of fat has dropped down to 9, which is a tremendous change. 48 grams of carbohydrate. 21% of the calories come from fat. We'll talk about that a little bit later, perhaps. And then cholesterol, 67. And sodium, hey, up to 600 because of the extra amount of salt here and there that had to go into the dish. Otherwise, believe me, it's so bland you think, why did I go to all that trouble? Here it goes. There's just a dab of that with the, oh, that's cilantro, and oh, it's so neat. You've got to have that sauce with that. It adds a creaminess to it, and when you add the crunch of the cucumber, wow. And such springboarding potential, don't you think? All right. Now this time, I'm going to have to put my glasses on. I thought that we'd have a look at fat grams, okay? Now, it's just something that I keep on blithely saying every time, now the fat grams are so. And every now and again I think to myself, do you know what I'm talking about? You know, that's the trouble. There's a sort of confusion in the air about this sort of thing. So bear with me. If you know all about this, you just sit back at home and just say, yeah, I know. I understand. Well, here, 1 gram of fat. Now let's see whether I can draw it. Do you know what that is? That's a paperclip. So an ordinary sized paperclip weighs 1 gram. So at any time you wanted to sort of pick up 60 grams of paper clips and, or 60 paper clips and then know what 60 grams was, you'll know how much it weighs. But 1 gram has 9 calories. Doesn't have 10, which would be more convenient, but it has 9. Now, I am the sort of chap, and this is very personal, and I don't mind being personal with you, who actually has 2,000 calories a day. If I have more than that, I put on weight. If I have less than that, I still proceed to put on weight. You know, that's the way it is. You shouldn't. Yeah, I mean, you should lose it. Okay, so 2,000 calories a day. Now, the American Heart Association says 30% of calories from fat. Well, what on earth does that mean, truly? Well, it means, in this case, 30% of 2,000 is, with my maths, 60 grams. Now, you know what a gram is. Now it's 60 paper clips. All right. Now, this dish was 396 calories. Do you remember that? I just chalked that up in a moment ago. So it's 9 grams of fat. That's how much fat there was in it. Multiplied by 9 calories. Hey, isn't this fun to be back at school? That equals 81 calories. 9 nines are 81. Now, the way I work that out is I simply divide the 396 into 81, put a couple of noughts on, make it easy, and that comes out 21%. All right. So I know that's 21% of calories from fat. Now, I get 2,000 calories a day, and my wife Trina has 1,500 calories a day. That's G and that's T. And those are grams. Now, how many grams of fat do we have? Well, In my case, I allow myself 50 every day, and Trina allows herself 30. That's the way it is in a sexist community, isn't it? Actually, she's smaller than I am. She has 1,500 calories, and also she's had a bad heart, as you might have known. She's got 222 cholesterol. I have a 165, so I've got a bit more fat than she does, and I'm bigger than she is. So I have about 22% of calories from fat, and she has 18% of calories from fat. That's just the way it is. Are you more confused than you were before you started? I hope not. What you could do is always record these little bits and play it back afterwards. That's great fun. I make sense then. Hey, this is just a terrific dish. It just reminds me of when I was young. And let's face it, we need all the remembrance we can, can't we, of things like that. God bless you. See you next week.